Hi, I'm Benita, and for my Learn Craft activity, I chose knitting. I chose knitting for a couple of reasons. One, I've always wanted to learn. I've known how to crochet since I was a little girl, but I never learned how to knit. Also, I thought that it would be a good craft to learn because it's something that a lot of other people do know how to do, and I think that it will be very useful as an OTA. In case I have a client or someone that does know how to do this craft and it's important to them, this way I can help them to relearn or regain the skills that they need. So I chose the knit stitch, which is the easier stitch, but I figured that was a good one to start with. So just for my quick demonstration, I have a nice bulky yarn, which I also found I thought was easy to start with instead of a thinner yarn. So I'm just going to give myself a little bit of a tail here, which just means that's my loose end of my yarn. For my needle, I have a nice big needle. Again, I thought that that would be easier for learning. This would also be good for people who have dexterity issues with the larger needle. This is a 17. So just quickly to show you how to start, it's called casting on. So I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to lay it over my thumb and my index finger, and then I'm going to grip those hanging yarn pieces of yarn with the 3 remaining fingers on my hand. So it creates a little bit of a triangle. Then you take your needle, you're going to insert it into that triangle and pull it toward you. Once you do that, with the tip of your needle, you're going to go into the yarn at the base of your thumb. It's hard to see, I'll turn it around. At the base of your thumb, okay? And then pull the tip of your needle back over toward your index finger. And you're going to grab that yarn and pull it toward you. When you do that, there's a little loop there that you had created. You're going to pull the yarn through that loop. And then see? Ta-da! You have 2 stitches on your needle, okay? So I'll do a couple more. Like I said, you're grabbing the yarn, you're pulling it over toward your index finger, grabbing that yarn, and pulling it through. And I don't want to do them too tightly. I'll just throw another one on there for you. So this particular activity, excuse me, does not have a lot of requirements as far as spatial needs. It can be done sitting in any kind of chair. I would suggest that there be a table nearby so that way you have some place to put your needles to rest them. Also, if you have a basket or a bag so that the rest of your yarn can rest in that when you're using it or not using it, that way it's not rolling all over the floor. Also, you would need scissors, so you would want a table nearby so that you could put the scissors there. Which is, if you have a basket, you can keep everything together. That's the best way to do it, since this activity is very mobile and you can take it with you. As far as lighting needs, you do have to have ample lighting because you want to be able to see the stitches that you create. All right, so let's just go on to the second part here. Once you have your stitches on your needle, you pick up your other needle and you're going to insert it into your stitch at the bottom. So it creates a little X there. And now you're going to take your yarn, not your little tail, the other one, and you want to wrap it around in between the two. And then hold it in your dominant hand and the second needle as well. And you want to pull that again toward yourself so that you grab that yarn that you just wrapped between the two of them. Now you have another stitch on your new needle. So you have to slide your first stitch off, which I found this part a little tricky. Slide it off of your first needle. Okay? Now your first stitch is done. And you just continue with that. So, oops, I'll do another one. Just wrap it around, pull it through, and then slide it off. So this particular activity is also good as far as the body function. You're using your hands. It's good for mobility, wrist, hand mobility, hand-eye coordination, bilateral integration. Those are some body functions. As far as performance skills, you are gripping. You know, you have to grip both your needle, you're gripping your yarn. Also manipulating because of the actions that you're creating. You are, let's move that yarn out of the way there. There is a lot of manipulation that's needed with this particular craft. Also, as I mentioned, I have a nice bulky yarn that I'm using, and I'm using very large needles. So because there's such a variety available in yarns, needles, as well as the type of patterns and stitches that you can do, there's a lot of opportunity for grading up and grading down. So for example, if I were to grade this up, I would decrease my yarn size, or I would decrease my needle size, or maybe I would, instead of trying to make something simple and square like a pot holder, I would try to make a sweater, or I would try to make a blanket. If I wanted to grade this down, I would basically do the opposite of what I just said. I would go with nice bulky yarn, something that's heavier, so that way it doesn't require as much grip or manipulation. I would go with larger needles, so they're easier to handle. And I also discovered that with the larger needles, if they're longer, you can actually press them against your torso to assist with stability. Overall, I found learning this craft a lot easier than I thought. Whenever I would see someone knit, it looked really difficult. I'm like, how are they manipulating both of those needles to make them, allow them to make something so beautiful? But once I learned, I found that I really enjoyed it, and I found it really relaxing. So my completed project is a scarf. Here it is. I'm really proud of it. Like I said, I just used the knit stitch. So I'm already plotting my next project. I'm going to learn how to do the purl, and maybe I'll be able to create something that has a knit and a purl stitch. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks.